Good afternoon. Today I'm going to be reviewing the Marloe Motorsport 105. This watch will be available in May from marlowatchcompany.com for £399 which is €460 or 522 US dollars. Marloe are a well-established microbrand. They were founded in 2015 and they're based in England. In May, Marloe will be releasing their Motorsport collection, which is based on their Coniston model. The two pieces will be the Motorsport 25, which is Lotus 25 inspired, and this piece, the Motorsport 105, which is Alfa Romeo 105 Coupe inspired. The Alfa Romeo 105 Coupe was produced from 1963, and the dial and handset of this piece are inspired by the rev counter used in the Alfa Romeo 105 Coupe. Both the Motorsport 25 and the Motorsport 105 respectively will be made in batches of 500 numbered pieces. This piece is number 242 of 500. So firstly, let's look at the box that the watch comes in, and then I'll talk you through the specifications of the piece. So the watch comes in a watch box which is housed inside this protective cardboard sleeve, so it's in the form of a book. As I've detailed, the Motorsport 25 and Motorsport 105 will be made in batches of 500 number pieces, and this is number 242, and we have the serial number of the piece on the spine of the sleeve. So one removes the inner watch box from the sleeve, as you can see, and on the front we have the Marloe emblem, and also on the spine we have the Marloe emblem. So it opens rather like a book in two halves. The left-hand portion has a high-definition picture, and in the base there's a QR code you can scan with your Android or iPhone, and that will access the Motorsport digital book. Now, there are two things absent from this. I would like to see a warranty card, or alternatively an owner's instruction manual with clear, concise diagrams and the instructions in English detailing the operation of the movement used, which is the Miyota Caliber 8N24G automatic. So, for example, as an alternative to using a plastic warranty card, or alternatively a printed booklet, they could add an additional two QR codes that could be scanned with an Android or iPhone, like this QR code for accessing the Motorsport digital book. So the QR code for the warranty could detail the terms and conditions of the 2-year international warranty, and the other QR code could download the owner's instruction manual. So they are absent, and I think that they could update this, but I can understand why they haven't used a plastic warranty card or printed out a booklet, because on the base of the sleeve you can see there is a statement from Marloe Watch Company detailing their brand policy on sustainability, recyclability and legacy. So the reason why they've used cardboard packaging is because they have a policy of using environmentally friendly and sustainable materials, so that's fair enough. So in the centre we have time well spent, which is the motto of the brand, and on the right hand portion we have the specifications detailed, and also we have the movement specifications detailed, which is very good. Now you'll see there's also a foam circle, so one removes that and that protects the head of the piece in shipping from any damage, so you can remove these cardboard covers. Now in the right hand portion you can see there's a cutout, and there's also a foam cutout piece in the shape of the head of the piece. This is a very snug fit around the head of the piece, and it does a good job of protecting it in shipping from any damage. And in the base there's a cutout with two elasticated straps, and that secures the genuine leather rally strap. So you've got to fit the strap to the head of the piece yourself, but it is very well presented and it is very well secured. In the left hand portion you can also remove this cardboard panel. And there's also three cutouts with two elasticated straps in each of the cutouts, and this is space to house additional straps. So very nice presentation, environmentally friendly and sustainable packaging, which is a credit to Marloe, and I think it's good. I like the book format of it, and I also like that there's a QR code which you can use for accessing the Motorsport digital book. So it's very well thought through design, and I think they're very conscientious as a microbrand, and they deserve credit. The thing I like about this piece in particular is it's covered by a 2-year international warranty, and I want to give due credit to Marloe Watch Company here, because often microbrands in the low tier, below €500, only cover their watches with 12 months of international warranty. So to get 2 years of international warranty is very good, and it is unusual at this price point. So with regards to the specifications of the piece, we have a 41mm case diameter. We have a lug-to-lug measurement of 48.4mm, a thickness of 12.6mm, and a lug width of 20mm. The genuine leather rally strap is matte black, and it tapers from 20mm at the lugs down to the buckle and tang. Buckle and tang is solid 316L grade stainless steel, flawless mirror polishing to the top side, underside and flanks, and on the right hand side you can see it is engraved with high definition engraving with a Marloe emblem. Now I think they could update this and enhance it, because rather than having an engraved Marloe emblem, which does match the turbine crown as you can see, which is signed, I think it would look better if they used the same Marloe text logo that's printed on the dial at 6 o'clock, because that would fit. The Marloe text logo would fit nicely across the buckle, as you can see. And I think it would look better. There would be better continuity of design to have the Marloe text logo rather than just having the Marloe emblem. But this is subjective. Some collectors might like the emblem matching the turbine crown, as you can see. Double dome sapphire crystal with blue tinted AL coating on the underside, and the blue tinted anti-reflective coating does an outstanding job of reducing the glare and the highly reflective nature of this silver mirror polished handset. So as I've detailed, this Marloe Motorsport 105 is inspired by the Alfa Romeo 105 Coupe, as the 105 name suggests, and that was produced from 1963, and it featured a rev counter which had a very similar design to it. So the dial and the handset of this piece are inspired by the rev counter used in the Alfa Romeo 105 Coupe, and they've done a very good job of matching it, and the legibility is excellent as per rev counter in a sports car. So I really like the proportions of the handset. It gives it a vintage 1960s aesthetic. Also like the matte black dial. They've made the correct decision here, because they could have used a glossy black enamel dial or a black sunburst dial, which would have been more shiny and reflective. The benefit of using a matte black dial is it's not as reflective. So the legibility and clarity is very good, and the AR coating also works very good. When I tilt the piece at an oblique angle, you can see the AR coating is very effective. When you view the piece straight on, you can see the clarity and the legibility is excellent. High definition printing of the Arabic numerals, and I like that the 60 is larger, and it does add interest to the dial. Also the minute ticks around the chaptering are nice and crisp and sharp. The high definition, the font isn't too thick or blurry. So legibility, symmetry of the dial is excellent with the absence of a date complication. Also like the proportions of the Marloe text logo at 6, and they've made the correct decision by sighting it at 6 o'clock rather than 12, because the design looks nice and clean. Now if you look at the 6 o'clock index, you can see the side it says British design, and that is indeed true, because Marloe are based in England and the watches are designed in Britain. So good symmetry to the dial. I like the contrasting red sweeping second hand, and it's very aesthetically pleasing. Nice 3D effect to the chaptering, and it's also lumed with Naturalite Superluminova, and Naturalite looks very similar to blue BGW9. Nice domed profile to the double dome sapphire crystal. As you can see, it's got a nice high dome to it, 2mm thick, and it provides an effective hermetic seal to 100 meters. So very aesthetically pleasing piece. The head of the piece is solid 316L grade stainless steel, and we have a knurled bezel. The quality of the knurling on the bezel is high definition and crisp. It's nice and sharp. Now, it doesn't have any sharp edge to the top edge, so it's been deburred and chamfered very well. But I like the way the double dome sapphire crystal projects above the mirror polished top edge of the knurled bezel, and also the case, which is mirror polished, has a nice large undercut to the flanks. Now every facet of this head of the piece is mirror polished to perfection, and I want to give due credit to Marloe Watch Company here, because the quality of the mirror polishing is like Grand Seiko Zaratsu case polishing. It's very high quality. What we're looking at here is high tier level mirror polishing to every facet of the head of the piece. With microbrands in the low tier and that have mirror polishing on the case, the first area I look at is in between the lugs, because often microbrands in the low tier below €500 price point, they'll use the production cost cutting measure of brush satin finishing or just machining between the lugs, because that cuts production costs and therefore maximises profit margin per piece. But Marloe deserve credit here, because they have not cut production costs here with regards to the finishing. In between the lugs is mirror polished to the same flawless standard as the flanks, the top edge of the lugs, and also the exhibition caseback. And it's very good to see a microbrand below €500 to mirror polish in between the lugs to a flawless standard as per the top of the lugs and the flanks. The edge of the case, which marks the transition between the top of the curved lugs and the flanks, is deburred and chamfered very well. So nice crisp edges to the transitions, but they don't feel sharp, which is good. Nice radius profile to the tips of the lugs. They're curved rather than being pointed, and that deletes the sharp tips or corners to the tips of the lugs. So no sharp edges whatsoever. Nice large bevel to the underside to the flanks, and again that deletes the sharp edge one often gets with the undercut to the flanks. Quality of the mirror polishing to this piece really is high tier level. It's €5,000 plus price point finishing on a low tier piece, costing £399, which is €460. Really like the mirror polishing to the nailed bezel, catches the light, looks very aesthetically pleasing. The crown is called a turbine crown because of the shape of it. It's a nailed crown with a turbine profile to it, conical profile to it, nicely proportioned. It's not too large, it doesn't project too far from the right hand flank, but it's large enough to be grippy and tactile. You can get good purchase with your index finger and thumb. So push-pull crown, which provides an effective hermetic seal to 100 metres, which is perfectly acceptable for a daily wear piece. Let's test the push-pull crown execution. So, in the closed position, as it's a push-pull crown rather than a screw-down crown, one can manually wind the Miyota Caliber A1024G. So, feels nice and smooth to manually wind. You can manually wind it to its maximum 42-hour power reserve. One can feel the tension in the mainspring gradually building up. Feels nice and smooth. So, to put it into perspective, feels lighter to manually wind than a Seiko NH35A or NH38A, which you'll be familiar with. Also feels lighter than a Sellita Caliber SW200-1, which you may be familiar with. It's a characteristic of the 8000 series of Miyota calibers. They do feel very light and smooth. So it doesn't feel gritty or rough when you manually wind it. You can feel the tension gradually building up. Putting it out to the first click position hacks the movement. So this is the benefit of using the Miyota Caliber A1024G. There is no date complication, so there's no dates wheel beneath the dial. We don't have a dates complication, and therefore that deletes the phantom date setting position. There's only one click on the crown. There is no phantom date setting position. That's a benefit if you dislike 2 clicks on the crown and a phantom date. So, looking at the contrasting red second hand, you can see it's now stopped dead, so therefore it's possible to set the time precisely to the second with the Miyota Caliber A1024G. Feels nice and smooth, both clockwise and anti-clockwise, very light resistance to the gearing, minimal friction. Feels nice and smooth. And I like it because there's minimal backplay in it, as you can see. Now, when you rotate the turbine crown, there's an almost immediate response to the minute hand, which is a pencil minute hand. And I like it that you don't have to take up a lot of slack, so it feels very tight, nice and robust and reliable. Pushing it back in, it's got a nice positive click, and that restarts the movement. Now, one detail I want you to be aware of, and it's a benefit. Early versions of the 8000 series Miyota calibers did not hack. For example, the 8215 did not hack, and then Miyota updated the 8215 to add hacking as a complication. This movement, the Caliber A1024G, is based upon the 8000 series. It's a skeletonized version without the date complication. But like the updated 8215, which the architecture is based upon, it does have hacking added to it. So as you can see, when I pull it out to the first click position, the time setting position, it hacks the movement. And that's a benefit. Earlier versions of the 8000 series did not hack, and therefore it wasn't possible to set the time precisely to the second. So this does have hacking. So, works very well. Manual winding feels good, setting the time feels smooth, and the hacking works well. So, let's look at the strap. So, rally strap, genuine leather, contrasting red stitching. I like the red stitching because it complements the red contrasting second hand, and also between the 50 and 60 on the dial we've got this red portion, rather like the red area on a rev counter, and as I've detailed, this is inspired by the rev counter used in the Alfa Romeo 105 Coupe from 1963. So the red adds interest, and I like the continuity of design because we've got the red stitching. Matte finish to the grained leather. I like the rally strap with the large holes, and the benefit is this allows for air circulation and allows for sweat and perspiration to wick away from the wrist. So it's aesthetically pleasing, but also very comfortable to wear. Also makes the thick padded strap more flexible, and therefore it enhances the comfort level when worn for long periods of time, such as 8 to 12 hours per day. 2 keepers which are correctly proportioned. The first one is fixed, the second one slides, and it's good to have the 2 keepers. Plenty of length on the strap. So this strap will fit from a 6-inch wrist up to a 7.5-inch wrist. So let's look at the underside to it. As you can see, very high quality. Stainless steel quick release spring bars, and Marloe deserve credit here because they've made the correct decision by not using standard spring bars. By using quick release spring bars, that negates the need for using a spring bar tool, and the benefit of that is often with mirror polished cases like this, it's difficult to remove a thick padded leather strap with a spring bar tool without scuffing or scratching the mirror polishing on the lugs, as you can see. But by having quick release spring bars, you don't need a spring bar tool, and that's good because you're not going to risk scuffing or scratching the lugs if you exchange the rally leather strap for an alternative. The underside has a contrasting tan tone to the liner and plenty of holes in it, from a 6 to a 7.5 inch wrist, which is good. And as you can see, it says 20M, which denotes medium, and I like it. So I think the quality of the finishing is good. Now, it is very thick and padded at the spring bar end, which is where it needs to be stiffer and reinforced to make it more robust. But as it tapers down to the buckle and tang end, it's more soft and supple, and therefore I'm confident with daily wear it's going to break in and become a very comfortable strap. And I really like the rally holes. It does fit the aesthetic of this being a sports piece. So let's look at the Exhibition Caseback. Exhibition Caseback is made from solid 316L grade stainless steel at the outer portion, which is mirror polished to a flawless standard. The milled slots are deburred and chamfered to a very good standard. As you can see, it's engraved with 242 because, as I've detailed, the Motorsport collection, the Motorsport 25 and Motorsport 105 respectively, are made in batches of numbered 500 pieces. So this is 242 of 500. One detail I like about it, and I haven't seen this before, is inside the sapphire crystal glazed Exhibition Caseback, we've got a chapter ring which has a 3D effect, and it's engraved and inlaid with red paint to a high definition standard. As you can see, Marloe Watch Company, designed in Britain, Motorsport collection, and then it says time well spent, which is the motto of the brand. I like the red. Again, good continuity of design because the red matches the red on the dial, the red contrasting second hand, and also the red contrasting stitching in the rally strap. The red text is very aesthetically pleasing, and I really like this chaptering inside the underside of the sapphire crystal glazed Exhibition Caseback. So, does a good job of displaying the movement, which is a skeletonized Miyota caliber 8N24G. So, the 8N24 is available in two versions. The standard is the 8N24, which is silver, and the 8N24G is the gilt version. The G in the reference denotes gilt. So, skeletonized rotor, skeletonized bridges, and this is the gilt version, and they deserve credit here because they could have used the less expensive version. This just the standard 8N24, which is silver. The gilt version does look more aesthetically pleasing, and it enhances the skeletonized bridges and skeletonized rotor. They could further enhance it by adding a signed Marloe Watch Company rotor rather than just using the standard Miyota rotor. I think that would look better. But however, this is subjective. Some collectors might like the skeletonized Miyota rotor. So, very aesthetically pleasing movement. It's not decorated with blue screws or pelage finishing, but it's in gilt, which does add some interest versus the standard version in silver. I like that the caseback is engraved with the unique serial number 242 of the 500 number pieces. Mirror polishing is very good. Now, the other benefit of it is it's not a bubble back profile to the caseback. It's very flat. This is good because the 8N24G is a thick movement because it's a Miyota 8000 series, so it does need additional clearance around the rotor. It's not as low profile as the 9000 series caliber, such as the Miyota caliber 9015 or 9039 respectively. They are a lower profile movement. They require less clearance beneath the sapphire crystal in the caseback and the rotor, but as you can see, it's very flat. Now, the benefit of that is it reduces the thickness of the piece down to only 12.6 millimeters, and also it sits very snug to the wrist. It's very smooth and comfortable to wear for long periods of time, such as 8 to 12 hours per day. Quality of the mirror polishing to the underside to the head of the piece is fantastic. This is high tier level mirror polishing. To put that into perspective, low tier is €0 to €500 price point, and then high tier is €5,000 plus. So they've done a very good job of the mirror polishing, both to the Exhibition caseback and the undercuts to the flanks. No sharp edges to the undercuts, and the radius tips to the lugs are also deburred and chamfered. No sharp corners. Very well finished case. Right, so I'll give you a wrist shot and you can see how it fits on my 8-inch wrist. Now, as you can see, this 20mm medium strap will fit from a 6-inch to 7.5-inch wrist, but however, it's a fraction too short for comfort for my 8-inch wrist. I can just engage the end of the strap in the two keepers, the first fixed keeper and the second sliding keeper, but that's with a tight fit. I can't fit an index finger beneath the buckle and tang and the strap to allow for wrist expansion in warmer weather or when one is active. So realistically, 6 inches to 7.5 is the maximum for this medium length strap. I would like to see Marloe include different versions of the strap, a small, medium and large, and that would suffice. For example, if collectors want to order a piece with a smaller strap or a longer strap for a 5 to 6 inch wrist or a 7 to 8 inch wrist, they could do that. But I'm not going to be critical, because for the majority of wrist sizes, 6 inches to 7.5, this strap will suffice. I can just engage the end of it. So 7.5 is the largest size. Now, with regards to wrist presence, it's a very satisfying piece. Doesn't dominate the wrist, but 41mm does give nice wrist presence, but it's surprisingly light. The thing I like about this piece above all else, although it's a 41mm with a 2mm thick double dome sapphire crystal and sapphire crystal glaze exhibition case back, which does add thickness to it, it is only 12.6. It's surprisingly low profile. I would expect this to be in excess of 13mm with a double dome sapphire crystal. And bear in mind, it is 100 metres, not 50 metres, so it does need to have a thicker crystal in the front and also in the exhibition case back in the back. So, needless to say, anything below 13mm is the sweet spot. That will easily slip underneath a shirt cuff if you wear business shirts, so that makes this an ideal daily wear piece at only 12.6 thick. Doesn't feel top heavy, feels very well balanced. Correct choice of taper, 20mm tapering down to the buckle and tang. The 20mm lug width does balance the 41mm head of the piece very well. The rally strap with the contrasting red stitching does look very aesthetically pleasing, but it also feels very soft and supple, feels very comfortable and flexible. The large holes add to the articulation of it, wraps around the wrist very well. Proportions of the buckle and tang are aesthetically pleasing, but they also look correct. So, low profile piece. 12.6, and that's a pleasant surprise, because with an 8000 series, a thicker Miyota caliber, rather than the 9000 premium series, which are lower profile, I really would expect this to be 13 plus. 12.6 is good. Nice curved profile to the curved lugs. They wrap around the wrist very well, so it does wrap around the wrist. It doesn't sit on top of the wrist like a slab of 316L grade stainless steel. 70 grams is very lightweight for a 41mm. Really does feel weightless on wrist. It feels invisible. So comfort level is good. Feel good factor is good. Proportions of the case are excellent. Thing I like about the case is the lug to lug measurements. It's 48.4. Now you'll know from my previous reviews, I consider 48mm to be the sweet spot. 48 is the perfect lug to lug, regardless of whether you have a 6 to 7 inch wrist or a 7 to 8 inch wrist respectively. 48 gives the perfect fit. So at 48.4, it's just a fraction above the perfect 48 sweet spot. It's only 0.4mm longer, and therefore this will fit you regardless of whether you have a 6 to 7 inch wrist or a 7 to 8 inch wrist respectively. So although it is large at 41, it does actually wear more like a 39 or a 40, because the case is compact, it's not too long, and the curved lugs wrap around the wrist very well. There isn't a large gap beneath the tips of the lugs, which is good. They've got the proportions to the undercut and the flanks to the case very well. I like the large knurled bezel. Catches the light, very aesthetically pleasing, and I like the way the double dome sapphire crystal has a nice curved profile which projects above the mirror polished top edge of the knurled bezel. So aesthetically pleasing. Proportions of the handset are very good. Does look visually very similar to the Alfa Romeo 105 Coupe rev counter, which it's inspired by, and the matte black dial legibility is good. Contrasting red second-hand contrasts well. The chapter ring is clearly legible. Proportion of the pencil minute hand and pencil hour hand are very good. So I like it. I think it's a good looking piece. Feel good factor is good. Comfort level is good. 70 grams is very lightweight for a 41mm. So proportions are very good with this piece, and I'm surprised by the lack of heft. It's only 70 grams. Comfort level is enhanced. Feel good factor is enhanced as a result. So let's do a Lume test, and we'll see how the Lume performs when it's charged up to the absolute maximum. So as I've detailed, this uses Naturalite Superlume Nova. Naturalite has a blue tone which looks very similar to BGW9 Superlume Nova. So as always, I'm going to use my 100 UV LED torch to charge it up to the absolute peak. Right, so that's now fully charged, and as you can see, it has not disappointed. This has actually exceeded my expectations. With microbands in the low tier below the €500 price point, one often has to expect some cost-cutting measures. But on a positive note, you can see Marloe Watch Company have not used the cost-cutting measure of using 2 to 3 layers or 3 to 4 layers of BGW9 Superlume Nova, which they're calling Naturalite. It's their proprietary name for the BGW9 they're using. This is clearly 5 to 6 layers of BGW9 Superlume Nova used on the chapter ring and also on the handset. The handset is correctly proportioned. You can clearly differentiate between the pencil minute hand and the pencil hour hand, so immediately one can read the time in the dark. I like the chaptering. You can see there are black lines to denote the hour marks or the indices, and the legibility is good. Perfect colour tone match in daylight between the chaptering and also the handset. The BGW9 is white in daylight on both the chaptering and white on the handset, and in the dark there's a perfect blue colour tone match. For example, the hands do not look lighter or darker than the chaptering, and the quality is very good. Nice even application of the 5 to 6 layers, and really it's stellar performance and a pleasant surprise because, as I've detailed, often microbrands will cut production costs in order to maximise profit margin per piece in the low tier below €500 by using 3 to 4 layers on the hands or 3 to 4 layers on the dial versus 5 to 6. The exciter is potent, it's continuing to glow for a good length of time, good performance, good legibility, and I like the blue tone of the BGW9, which they call Naturalite. So excellent. Marloe deserve full credit for using 5 to 6 layers. Right, so let's discuss the movement use. So this is powered by the Miyota Caliber 8N24G. As I've detailed, there are two versions of the 8N24. The standard 8N24 is silver. The 8N24G is the gilt version. The G denotes gilt. So it's made in Japan. The architecture is based upon the Miyota 8000 series. So the architecture of this movement is similar to the 8215, which is a reliable, well-proven workhorse Japanese caliber, but it's skeletonized and they delete the date complication. So there's no date wheel, and therefore that deletes the date complication, and also the benefit is it deletes the phantom date setting position. So there is no second click position on the crown. There's no phantom date setting position. You simply have one click to hack the movement and set the time. So skeletonized bridges, which reduces the heft of the movement but also adds some interest to it, and skeletonized rotor, so it's lighter than an 8215, and that does help. It does benefit this piece because it reduces the heft. It's only 70 grams despite being 41mm size. So had they used a solid movement rather than skeletonized, that would increase the heft of the piece. But it does look aesthetically pleasing because it's gilt. It's not decorated with blued screws or pelage finishing, but the skeletonized bridges and skeletonized rotor do add some interest. However, I think Marloe Watch Company could enhance this further by using a signed rotor. For example, they could add their own rotor which has the Marloe emblem, or engrave it with Marloe Watch Company and skeletonize it in gilt. That would make this more aesthetically pleasing rather than just using the standard Caliber 8N24G rotor. Now, the thing about this movement is it's an 8000 series, so it's a base version Miyota caliber. It has 21 joules, it runs at 21,600 vibrations per hour at a frequency of 3 Hz, 42-hour power reserve is perfectly acceptable. It has hand binding and hacking, which use for complications, and they work well, and the benefit, as I've detailed, it doesn't have a date complication and therefore doesn't have a phantom date setting position. Stated accuracy is -20 to +40 seconds per day. However, I'm pleased to report that Marloe are doing a very good job of regulating the Caliber 8N24Gs they're using. This one is running consistently at +5 seconds per day. +5 is well within the stated accuracy of -20 to +40, and it is actually chronometer grade accurate. Chronometer accuracy is -4 to +6, so at +5 it's within chronometer grade. Very good accuracy. So, what are the negatives? Well, the Miyota 8000 series, including this Caliber 8N24G, does have a noisy rotor. The rotor spins freely, both clockwise and anti-clockwise, but the negative of it is it's noisy. You can hear the rotor spinning round, and this is just a characteristic of 8000 series calibers. You can hear the rotor. So to put this into perspective, it does feel louder and more noisy than a Seiko NH35A and an NH38A respectively, which you'll all be familiar with. It's not as quiet as a premium 9000 series Miyota caliber, such as the 9015 and the 9039 respectively. They have quieter rotors. So bidirectional rotor, but it only winds the movement anti-clockwise, so it's not bidirectional winding. The rotor has to spin anti-clockwise in order to wind the movement. That's something to bear in mind. The other negative, subjectively, is the contrasting red second hand stutters or judders around the dial. That's a characteristic one just has to live with, because the 8000 series calibers like this 8N24G run at 3 Hz, and it's a characteristic of 3 Hz movements. The second hand stutters or judders around the dial because it runs at 21,600 vibrations per hour, as per a Seiko NH35A and 38A respectively. I prefer the Miyota 9000 series premium movements because they run at 4 Hz and 28,800 vibrations per hour. Now the benefit of that is the 4 Hz sweep is smoother. It doesn't stutter or judder like this 3 Hz sweep. A 4 Hz sweep looks more aesthetically pleasing because it sweeps smoothly. But again, this is subjective. For the majority of collectors, the 3 Hz stutter or judder of the second hand is not detrimental, but aesthetically a 4 Hz sweep looks smoother. So, what are the negatives to it? Well, it's a reliable, well-proven workhorse, Japanese-made caliber. Hand winding works well, hacking works well. No phantom date setting position, 42 hours is very good, +5 is excellent accuracy. So the reliability is the positive. The negative really is the noisy rotor and the stutter or judder to the second hand. I would like to see a higher grade of movement used in this piece because at £399, which is €460 or 522 US dollars, one expects to see 9000 premium grade Miyota calibers at this price point. Below €400 price point, it is acceptable to use 8000 series such as the 8215 or this 1824G, the skeletonized version of it. But when you get above the €400 price point, and this is €460, one starts to see the 9015, or alternatively, microbrands will use the 9039, which is the low cannon pinion stack height version of it, the low profile version of it. So this could be further enhanced. I would like to see Marloe upgrade it to the 9039, and they could add their own signed rotor. That would add interest to it, but also it's decorated with milled stripes like Côtes du Genève. So although it's not gilt, it's silver. It does have milled stripes on the bridge. It's not skeletonized, but they could add their own rotor to it, and it would be better. It would better justify the price point. So, lastly, I'll summarise the piece. What do I think of it overall? Well, when I'm considering reviewing a watch on my channel, the watch meet 2 criteria. It should be both excellent quality and excellent value at the respective price points. So, low tier piece, price point is £399, which is €460 or 522 US dollars. So the quality, I'm going to declare it as excellent. Quality of the finishing, quality of the BGW9, which they call Naturalite, is excellent. Quality of the rally strap is excellent. Exhibition caseback is also finished to perfection. So excellent quality piece. However, the value I'm going to declare as okay. I'm not going to declare it as good value or excellent quality. Reason being, at the low tier price point of €460, this does face some very stiff competition from other low tier micro brands. Now, I appreciate this piece is designed in Britain, and of course it uses a Japanese caliber, the Miyota 1824G, and that does increase production costs. For example, they could have used a less expensive movement such as the NH35A or the NH38A respectively, and I think that they deserve credit for not just taking the less expensive option. But however, really at this price point, €460, once you get above €400 in the low tier, you're at the top end of the low tier. €500 is the mid tier where it starts. And at that price point, you start to see microbrands using 9000 premium grade movements such as the 9015 and the 9039. I think the correct movement for this piece would be the 9039. The other benefit of using the 9039 is it has a low hand stack height on the cannon pinion. So that means that they could make this thinner. That would enhance the comfort level and feel good factor. As it stands, 12.6 is good. They deserve credit for that because it's 100 meters with a double dome crystal and also exhibition caseback, which does add thickness. But it does need to have additional clearance above the cannon pinion because the 1824G does have a tall hand stack height on the cannon pinion. It's a thick movement, despite being skeletonized. Had they used the Miyota 9039, which has a low hand stack height on the cannon pinion, they could reduce the thickness of this piece by 1mm and still use the same double dome sapphire crystal. The sapphire crystal could sit closer to the cannon pinion and handset and still sit closer to the dial without fouling the second hand on the underside of the sapphire crystal. So they could reduce this down to 11.6. That would make it exceptional. So I really think they need to consider updating the movement to a 9039, or alternatively updating the rotor and adding a Marloe watch company rotor engraved with the emblem or skeletonized with a Marloe text logo. That would further enhance it rather than just using the standard Miyota rotor. But excellent quality, okay value. I'm going to highly recommend it to you for consideration. I hope you've enjoyed my review of the Marloe Motorsport 105. Please feel free to post your own comments below the video. Thank you for watching.